Hi, I'm Sabrina Fry, and I would like to show you how I blended colors to create this Southern Lights glass bead mosaic. Now, all of my tree pieces are done freehand, but I do like to create some guidelines when I start just to give myself something to go by. So what I did here was I drew some basic lines and then I did a little bit of shading with the paint. And this just kind of reminds me of what I started with the original vision and how I wanted to proceed. Now, the first layer of beads you can see is already put down, and that was glued down already, and it's dry, so I don't have to worry about those beads moving around. Also, the tree was done at the very beginning. That's a different technique shown on a different video. So the focus on this video is going to be the blending of the colors in the grass. And this is a very freehand technique that I do. I've had a lot of practice at it, and working with the seed beads, blending is somewhat easy if you are willing to be very loose-handed and take things up if you don't like them and make changes. This is not a precise type of measurement. I am using many shades of color, and I'm also using different sizes of beads to create different effects. Now, if you notice, the paint in the background does not cover the entire area. It is not intended for me to do a painting and just cover it with beads. I want the personality and the color of each bead to speak to on its own and to support itself. And so what you're going to start to notice here is the different colors in the background. So you'll see here there are various shades of green, but there's also some blues and purples in there. And the colors are getting lighter as we go toward the background, which is natural, and you can use any kind of landscape pictures for reference on those types of things, the skies and the colors, how they transition to the back. But the main thing with any kind of transitioning of color is that you are very loose with the beads, that you kind of lay them on top of each other so that they overlap a little bit, because you don't want straight lines. Transition is not about lines and geometry. Now, having that top layer already glued down makes it much easier for me to control everything, so these tend to get built in stages. Now here I am adding some additional texture to the image, and it's because there's some bushes in this area that I want to give a little bit of different texture. Now I did not really change the color because it is more about texture than color transition. But if you notice while I'm doing this, a lot of this is just hand tapping. Now, I also left area at the top. I did not fill the whole thing in with beads. I left an area at the top so that I have room to move things around and work with the beads as I need them. And you can also see that the beads tend to like to roll around, and so it's like corralling cats over here. I'm constantly putting them back into place, moving them around. Now here I decided I needed some shading, some different shading in certain areas. So I use my tools, this is the back of my scoop, to move beads around, grabbing new colors and filling those areas in. Again, this is a loose process and I'm using my fingers to blend those in. So the key with doing any kind of bead mosaics where you do not have lines is that you are open to loosening things up. You are going to overlap beads. This is not a fast process. This video has been sped up. It's going about 4 times faster than I normally would go with this, so don't feel like you need to be rushed. Here I am using a smaller bead. These are size 15, where most of the other beads in this video are size 11. I'm using these 15s, one, because the color is right, but two, when you use a smaller bead like this, it allows you to use it as a blender, and it fills in a lot of those gaps, and it's a really wonderful way to create that transition. Now here, see, there's a completely, this is like a blue-green. Again, I'm working with shading, and the shading is something that just takes time and practice, but you know, you're gonna see the effect when you see the final piece. And I'm not gonna show you how I did the entire piece on this, just this one portion, but you'll see the finished piece, and all of the shading that went into the sky was done exactly the same way as the base, as well as the tree. I did it the same way as I did the ground level here. So this is a technique that can be used for a lot of different things. Again, this is a loose technique. This is not a precise measuring. Every piece is going to be different. If I were to create this piece again, I would use probably different colors and have come out with a different result, although it would probably be very, very similar to this one. But it's really hard to recreate something exactly the same when you're using this technique, which makes each piece more of a one of a kind. So I hope you enjoy watching this, and again, if you want to try this technique, I encourage you to do it, but please know it is going to take practice. I have been doing this for many years, and my first few pieces certainly did not look like this when they were finished. But this one is called Southern Lights, and I added a lot of wonderful little elements. This has a water element in it, which is shown on a different video. But there's also a lot of touch-up. This is when your tweezer work comes into play. So you notice I'm being very precise about where I'm placing things. And now I'm getting ready to put the glue down. And using my skinny glue is key for this technique because it will not cause the beads to move around. And once you've taken all this time to place everything where it's supposed to go, you do not want any beads going astray and moving around. So now we're ready for the glue. We're going to take everything down, make sure that every bead is in place, and then I'm going to begin to pour that glue. This glue is specially formulated to sink down, to spread itself evenly all over your beads, and it will dry completely clear without leaving any kind of residue or anything on it, all of that. Now, it looks like the tip is really close to the beads. It is not. I keep the tip at least an inch away from the beads to make sure that I don't scoot anything around. I'm going to put generous amounts, and if you notice, it's not really moving very far. So if you do this right, you shouldn't have glue spreading itself all over the place. Now, it needs to be on a really flat surface in order for it to dry, so make sure that you've got a good drying area. And this is what it looks like when it's done. Here's some close-ups of these grass green areas. This is the piece when it is completed, and I named this piece Southern Lights after the fireflies that I put in the grass at the end. I hope you've enjoyed seeing how this piece came together, and that you will take a look at my website, sabrinafryart.com, to see more of my original artworks, and keep up with Bead Mosaic YouTube channel to learn more of my techniques. Have a wonderful day.